Today I'm going to share how I'm living my worst nightmare at the moment, and I cannot believe that this has happened to me, but tune into the podcast and I'll tell you more. I broke my ankle so significantly that I ended up in hospital for surgery. I've got a plate and 2 pins in my ankle. So basically I got up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water and missed a step on these steps. It's kind of these stairs that curve down. They're terrible. I just flew down. And in fact, I can't even remember entirely what happened, which was really weird for me because I felt like, how come I can't remember? Like, it was scaring me, right? I was like, is there something wrong with my brain? And then I found out later, talking to different people, that when you have an accident, often you cannot remember what happened. Your brain wipes it out. But I do remember going down the stairs and not being able to catch on to anything. So I flew down those stairs, and I flew down from a very high point. So I think I went down about 10, 11 steps. My leg went under me. And again, I wouldn't have known this, but I've got a graze on top of my knee and on top of my foot. So we pieced it together that actually my leg is clipped under, and it's, just smashed my ankle. Quickly went to the hospital and they were like, oh, you've got a broken ankle. It's so significant. We're going to take you in for surgery now. And I was like, what? So it was quite overwhelming because it just happened so fast. And, thank God for the people at the Alfred Hospital, which is one that's very close to me. So that's where I'm at right now. I am 12 weeks living this sedentary lifestyle, which for me, and the reason why I say this is my worst nightmare is literally, I've often thought when I see people with a broken leg, I'm like, oh, I could never do that. Like I've broken quite a few bones before. As a kid, I was always falling over and I'd break something, but I never broke my leg or my ankle. And I always thought if that ever happens, that would be my worst nightmare because I'm so active. I walk everywhere. If anything I need, if I'm going out, if I go to the supermarket, if I walk my dog or I go to the gym, everything I walk to. I have a car, which I barely use because I love to walk and obviously love to exercise. So this has been a massive challenge for me, and obviously not having that independence because there are things that I'm really struggling to do, and I've been very blessed to have amazing family and friends who have offered and have supported me. I feel extremely lucky and very grateful. So I'm getting lots of help, which again, for someone who's a high achiever and quite independent, it's an interesting time for me. And why am I sharing this? I mean, I guess it's a bit of an update on me. And there's a lot of insights that are coming through when you're in this position and things just don't work out the way that you want. I was doing this meditation the other day, and what came up, a thought came up for me, which I had not thought before, which was everything in your personal life that you had worked hard for in the last 18 months, you didn't achieve. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That is so true. That's definitely something to ponder a bit more on. And, one of the other thoughts I had was, we are such creatures of making meaning out of things, and it's one of the things that we as human beings do, right? If something happens, we will have a spin on it, and whatever spin we put on it will either be something positive and make us feel okay, or it will be negative and then we won't feel okay. People have said to me, obviously you needed to slow down, or because I had this whole trip to the US booked, a work trip. I had a mastermind to go to. I had the Joe Dispenza event to go to. So really 2 big things that I was so looking forward to, and I had to cancel. And I was really devastated. Like, honestly, it took me 2 weeks to accept the fact that I'm going to be in this boot for 12 weeks and not be able to be independent, walk around and be mobile and exercise, right? One of the first things I said to the surgeon before he took me in, I was like, okay, so 6 weeks, I'll be back at the gym in 6 weeks. And he was like, no, you may walk in 6 weeks, but you've got a long road to recovery. And so, for me, that was a really big deal. And obviously in my work, I see people who resist where they're at, and I can relate to it, right? I was resisting where I was at. I was like, I can't do 12 weeks. I cannot do 12 weeks like this. And it took me 2 weeks. I've only just really accepted it, that, I can only take it day by day now. And, there's little things that I can do, and I'm focusing on that. And, I'm feeling more mobile each day as the pain minimizes. So, one of the things that, as I was saying, I see clients all the time, they resist where they're at, and that resistance makes everything worse. It makes pain worse, makes us feel worse about our situation. And so a lot of the advice that I've been getting, people's like, oh, you needed to slow down, or maybe you shouldn't have gone to the US, or, you'll have a lot of quiet time now, so you'll really be able to self-reflect and see what kind of message is in this. And it was really interesting because I listened to both perspectives, and I was like, in one mind, I was like, what have I done wrong to have this happen, And I hear that from clients, why is this happening to me? Why am I having to suffer? And going back to my point about we make meaning out of things, and whatever meaning we decide will dictate the emotions that go with it. And so I don't know what it means. Like, I can say, yeah, maybe I needed to slow down, but I don't think that I was in a place where I was needing to slow down. Like, I felt pretty good. It could just very well be an accident, right? It could just be the randomness, chaos of the universe, and somehow I've had this accident and this is what happens, right? And nothing more beyond that. That was one of my insights. I've had many insights through this, but that was one of them, like whatever meaning I make up for this and about my situation is going to dictate how I feel. One's going to be empowering in a sense, one's going to be disempowering. But again, I'm only just making it up. And at the end of the day, it could just very well be an accident, which is what it is. And maybe there is nothing more in that. Maybe there will be some great things that come out of this, having a lot of time to not be active and therefore being a lot more in self-reflection. Maybe good stuff will come out of this, but I don't think that it was brought upon me for something. And the other thing that, I wanted to go back on was everything that I had worked so hard for in my personal life I didn't achieve. And it's not to say that I'm not still going to continue to work hard for those things or move towards that or have that as my goal or have that as my intention and keep moving in that direction. But it's interesting that, that came up for me in my meditation, that you just haven't achieved those things. And if you're in that place where you're working hard for something, it's not happening for you, you're feeling really frustrated, look at the scenario that you're in and look at the things that aren't working out for you. Have a contemplation on that, because I found that really interesting. I just found it like something that I need to go further into to have a look at, like, why aren't these things working out for me? What's the barrier there? What's the block there? And maybe this time of being sedentary for 12 weeks is going to give me that opportunity to see something that I didn't see before, right? So if you're in that place and things aren't working out for you, do not give up. You still want to move forward and achieve what you want to achieve, but, have a look at why it's not working out. What could be the barrier there? What could be holding you back? What do you need to have an insight about, or see something more deeply about that you haven't before? I mean, I'd love your comments, guys. If anyone's been in my situation, I welcome any advice for rapid healing of an ankle fracture broken in 3 places. And if anyone's got any great tips for accelerated healing, please give them to me. I currently I have to give this a shout out actually. I'm using a PEMF mat, which is a pulsed electromagnetic field mat. I only got it 2 days ago. I was in a lot of pain and I laid on the PEMF mat, and actually my mum is here and I was like talking so much after it, and I was like, she's like, you seem like you're better. And I was like, you know what? I'm not in pain. So it's pretty powerful. I don't know, this electromagnetic field stuff. I love energy medicine things, I'm taking my supplements, I'm doing the nutrition and all of that kind of stuff, and the homeopathics. But if you've got any other tips for me, throw them my way. I want to be going to the doctor and him to say, wow, you heal so fast. You can get out of that boot early. I can only hope. So yeah, I'd love to hear comments. And if anyone is feeling like 2025 is being like, not even, last year or whatever it is, that you feel like you're pushing so hard for something and you're not getting it, let me know in the comments. Like, it'd be interesting to hear like what you make of it. Like, what have you seen for yourself that is the reason for that? I would love to hear your thoughts and your insights, and it could help me. All right, guys, that's my update. I'm going to be sitting down doing my podcast for a while instead of standing up. I'll be a homebody for 12 weeks. So this is my new reality, but I know that each day will get better and I will adjust. But anyway, I'd love to hear comments below. Bye, guys.